Cool. All right. So welcome everyone. Modim Simcha. I love being under the sukkah. I have to be honest, like this is a real treat because for years and years and years we haven't managed to get to the lands of Israel for Sukkot. So to be in Israel, which really spiritually is one big sukkah, a sukkah within a sukkah is pretty cool. And I'll tell you one of the connections between sukkah and Israel. Most mitzvot, like tefillin, a part of your body you do the mitzvah with. But the sukkah, if I was like this, I'm not in the sukkah. I'm still not in the sukkah. I'm still not in the sukkah. It's got to be all of you. It's a bit like love. You got to go all in. Got to be all in. So Israel is again, I walk these 4 steps. I'm doing all of me's in Israel. If like half of you's in Israel and half of you's in Lebanon or whatever, then kind of good luck, right? But the point is, Israel is a mitzvah. You're meant to be all in. Sukkah, you're all in your whole body. And we need to understand the time of Simcha, Zman Simchateinu. There's like an energy of these next few days, or by the way, has anyone accessed that higher level of happiness the past few days? So Gary's doing that. Was that because of the alcohol, Gary, or other reasons? Okay, cool. He was drinking it in, and there is a way to drink in the happiness. Maybe we can try and access it tonight. Maybe if we're lucky, we can do it a bit of a meditation at the end and try and see if you can access that high frequency which is going on tonight over the next few days. If you start coming to our classes, I'll try and help you tap in to the different frequencies of every month. Every Chodesh has a different flow of energy. So now we're in Tishri, and the first half of Tishri is pretty serious. The second half of Tishri is joy, happy, but a specific type of happy, which we're going to explain tonight. And then every month, as we hopefully go through a journey on Wednesday nights, I'll try and teach you the Kabbalistic energy, what to tap into, how to tap into it as we go forward. So first of all, define happiness. Define happiness. I just want to hear from you for a minute. For my Turkish friends over here. Here we go, from Turkey. In Turkey, Raquel, start with you. What makes you happy? What is happiness? Happiness is people. Interesting. Okay, nice. It's a cheap date. That's cool. You've done well there, right? And Jerome, happiness for you. Goal. I like that. Sorry? No, I mean obviously not. Zman simchatenu. We're talking about simcha. The Hebrew simcha. Mazet simcha. So again, my friend over here, happiness is, according to you. First thing come to mind. Happiness is music. Beautiful. Laura, happiness is. Happiness is love. Love is happiness. Yoram, what's happiness? Sorry? Laughing. Is that happiness though? Is it? So if I take a feather and tickle your feet, not that I'm going to do that, and unless you pay me, right? But then if I tickle your feet and I get you laughing, does that make you're happy? I mean, apparently there were some comedians in town. Anyone went to some of the comedian stuff over the past few weeks? There's been a lot of Jewish comics around Tel Aviv, I hear. So you can sit in a comedian show, and some of them are really funny. But does it make you happy? Does it make you happy when you leave? Or should I say, how many comedians get a laugh out of putting down people? Out of insulting people, out of insulting one type of person or a different sect, or, why should happiness be coming out of embarrassing? It says in the Talmud, if you embarrass someone, it's tantamount to murder. So what I'm getting at is we need to make a differentiation, my friends, between happiness and pleasure. Pleasure or laughter or physical pleasure is not the same as happiness. It's not, you know? And people misunderstand that. Everyone's searching for happiness. Everyone's searching for happiness, but looking for pleasure and then not feeling happy. I'll give you a little clue. After you've had the pleasure, do you feel happy at that point? You know, a lot of people tell me in Tel Aviv, where there's a lot of one night stands going on, apparently, and they tell me afterwards, they don't feel happy. They feel empty. Someone told me last week she felt dirty. So just because you have sex doesn't mean I feel happy afterwards. You're looking for a feeling, an experience. I would hope, with Hashem's help, you're going to leave the sukkah tonight feeling happy. And if you don't, you can get your money back. Maybe. And meaning, when you do a mitzvah, when you are accessing Zman Simchatenu, then it's long-term Simcha. It's afterwards you feel happy. You know, my Rabbi Yaakov Hillel always says, you take ice cream. You know, last night I don't know why I'm sharing this with you, but why not? My family from London were here. My brother's here with his kids, so we thought, let's take them to the best ice cream shop. I love Golders, right? Golders cool. You like Golders at the bottom of August shop, right? So I took all the kids to go, and they, oh my gosh, and the little kids, and I let them taste all the bubblegum ice cream, and there was a Barbie ice cream, and there's all sorts of ice creams they were tasting, and it was like, by the way, you ask a child who's got 20 choices of ice cream, which one do you want? It's actually torture. They're like, how many can I have? And they said 2, just 2. It's funny. And by the way, many guys feel like that in Tel Aviv about finding a girl, right? They're like, but you know, and like if you want to torture a child, give them 2 ice creams and then offer them a third. They're like, what do I do with it? So anyway, we went and had this Golders and and it was lovely and it was pleasurable. And I hope I'm allowed to say this. No, it was good, and you should all go to Golders and have a great time. And it was awesome. But I have to say, afterwards, it took about 2 minutes for one of the kids to start complaining about a stomachache and had to run to the bathroom. And then someone else starts not feeling a bit sick. Again, their ice cream is awesome, right? It's just you have a lot of ice cream. The post feeling isn't that great, right? How many of you wake up in the morning and like, why did I eat that? I feel that anyway, right? So my point is, Simcha is afterwards, you feel even better than before. Simcha is, it just gets better and better and better. So if Hillel says to me, you know, I'll be honest, you know, my Coke, a Haagen-Dazs, some Pringles, putting my feet up, watching some football, really pleasurable for me. That's how Rabbi Hill likes to relax. It's not, I don't feel happy. You know, in the end of the box of Pringles and the ice cream, I feel anything but pleasure. I feel anything but happy. I feel, why did I do that? It's not healthy. Just stick to the water, right? That's what I'm feeling. So my friends, we're looking for something which gives you long-term inner happiness. There's a difference between the smile and an inner smile. Again, we're not looking to be boring. Spirituality is not about being boring. It's about really lighting up your fire, genuinely. Being madlikat neshama, lighting up the soul and giving you genuine simcha. And I'll just say one thing very quickly, because you spotted it. In Kabbalah, we say the Hebrew letters are everything. So the word sameach has a similar word. What's another word which sounds like sameach in Hebrew? What's another word in Hebrew which sounds like sameach? Sameach, litzmoach, which means to grow. If you want to know one of the clues to what's happiness, and that's why, based on what you said, when you're growing, when you're going towards a goal and moving towards a goal and achieving your goal, when there is growth, there's happiness. You know, I give you all a blessing to be like a plant which is just healthily growing. and you're just feeling nourished. And when you stop growing, the soul is like, this isn't good. The Ari Kadosh says, sometimes when people get depressed, it's because the neshama is not feeling nourished. Your soul is not getting what it needs. Just like a plant needs sunlight and the right amount of water, your soul needs spiritual sunlight. It needs love. It needs love from yourself and love from others, but you all have a mission. And we're going to help you maybe tonight even work out a little bit what that mission is. And when you're achieving your mission, you're happy. When you're frustrated in life, when you're disillusioned, when you feel stale, when you feel you're stuck. Anyone feel stuck at the moment? Anyone feel stuck? When you feel stuck, come see me later, because it normally means maybe you're not where you need to be. Maybe there's part of your potential you're not actualizing. You're not on the path. When you're really happy, by the way, I'll be honest, let's say for me right now, past few months has maybe been some of the hardest work of my life, right? To come and build this beautiful space and have this space and build JTLV kind of with me and my wife has been a lot of work. I've probably never worked harder and my back's gone, but I've never been happier in one sense. So you can work super hard, but be happy at the same time. And ironically, I hate holidays after about 6 hours. If I have a holiday after about you've relaxed for 6 hours, like, okay, now what? Now what? Can I get back to work? Like in other words, because you want to grow. Your soul needs to grow. Yes, we should need to relax. We spoke about that last time. We need to get the balance of relaxation. But if you want to have simcha, we need to be tzmecha. We need to be litzmoach. So let's start going through the Kabbalistic roots of happiness. Here we go. Number one. There's a differentiation between money happiness, osher and osher. You know, what's one of the most important prayers that we have to say 3 times a day? It says if you say this prayer 3 times a day, you get the world to come. Anyone know? Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, right? Psalm 145. We say it twice in the morning and once in the afternoon. What does the word Ashrei mean? Happy. Ashrei is one of the Hebrew words for happy. Aleph, Shin, Resh is the root. But there's another word which sounds like that called Osher with an ayin, which means wealth. So I've got a question for you because it's interesting. Come on, Michael, there. Here's what's really interesting, my friends. Let's be honest here. No one's watching. It's not on Facebook Live or anything. If I were to say to you, you're going to work and you're going to make $1 million a year. $1 million a year. That means with the tax in Israel, you get left with like 30 shekel, right? But let's say, so you get $1 million. That question for you, will that make you happy? Who thinks that's it? I've got happiness. As long as I've got money, I'm happy. Because I tell you what, most people think that. In fact, most people think what's going to give them success is money. If I have money, I'm happy. Money, happy. I know, probably some of them are watching, some supremely wealthy people who have got more than 1 million, close to 1 billion. They are really not happy. And you're saying, oh, but I would be? You think you would be. But here's the thing. If I would give even some of you $1 billion and your soul wouldn't be nourished, you will be unhappy. If you be in a loveless situation or you wouldn't be achieving what it was you were meant to be achieving, you could have all the money in the world. You will not be happy. Because money does not buy happiness. Money can buy items, lots of them. And it can buy pleasure. For sure, you can have great holidays. But here's the thing. If you took me on a cruise, one of the nicest cruises, I would be really probably like down. Because I'd be like, oh my gosh, I could be doing things and should be doing things. And like, for me, it would almost like be a prison sentence. Weird, no? I can't help it. I'm a rabbi. But on a serious note, because the stuff to do, there's things to do. I've got a energy, a drive, a hunger to make a Big difference in Tel Aviv. So if you would put me on a boat for a month, I'd be literally counting down the days. When can I get off? Can I jump off now? Can I swim? So money doesn't buy you happiness according to Kabbalah. In fact, it says in Pirkei Avot, Ezu Ashir, who is a wealthy person? What does it say? Hasameach bechelko, someone who's happy with his lot. It doesn't say a wealthy person, someone with $1 million. Isn't it beautiful? No, someone who's happy, who's wealthy, even wealth, is if you're happy with your lot, which means if you can have gratitude for what you have. And I'll tell you something even more beautiful. I learned from a Kabbalist. It doesn't say hasameach bechelkaka. It doesn't say happy with your lot. It says hasameach bechelko, which means real wealth is if you can be happy for someone else's wealth. Can you do that? One of your friends gets the job that you want and gets the deal that you want. Can you be happy for them? If you are, then you're wealthy. That's so beautiful, no? If you can dance at someone else's wedding with the same joy as if it was your own wedding, you're wealthy. If you can be happy for your competitors to succeed, you're wealthy from a spiritual perspective. So here's what we need to do, my friends. We're going to go through a little experience now. I would like to, under this holy sukkah, help us move from the ayin into the aleph. Let me explain. What is this skin called in Hebrew? Or, ayin resh, which means skin. But what is another word which sounds like or? Or means light. Guess what happens is we're going to start reading about the Garden of Eden in Adam and Eve. Their skin didn't look like this. It was closer to this, but even better, it was opaque. It was this empty vessel, and the light of Hashem shone through them. And that's what the skin was like. We were just vessels of God. That's who we were. That's really what we are now, to be honest. That's what we are. We're divine light. That's what we are. When we sinned in the garden, Hashem, or we, chose to hide the light. Which is interesting, Rabbi Tatz, the way he puts it in English, the word for skin is also the word hide. Like classical English, where English really comes from. Right? Sorry, Americans, right? Sorry. Right there, hide, the word hide means the skin, because the skin hides the light. So what we need to do, explains the Kabbalist, is try and go from the ayin to the aleph. Our job, your mission, should you choose to fulfill it, my friends, is can you go back to the garden and go back to seeing light, to being light, to taking the ayin away? And that's the first thing. You'll be happy when you realize you're vessels of light, when you're not just the ayin, which is this guttural, which is this entity desiring wealth. Okay. And by the way, one of the most incredible experiences of my life have been when I've met some of the biggest Kabbalists. And there's a common denominator whenever I've met them. So let's say one of them called Rabbi Hill. Some of you have maybe heard of him. His father was called the Sliper. He lived in Bnei Brak. When I went to his house, here's what the number one in the generation had in his house. And by the way, we're talking about someone where politicians would often frequent them and spend time with them. They would be making big military decisions, economic decisions, life and death decisions around the world. Top doctors would be consulting. The number one Jewish spiritual leader, Rabbi Hill. Do you know what he had in his house? Not a lot. One table, 2 chairs, a bookcase. In the same room as he had his table was his bed. And guess what? One of the Gedolim I went to before that, called Rabbi Yosef, same thing. Just the most modest home you could possibly imagine. They had zero desire for material wealth. Zero desire. The great Chafetz Chaim, we spoke about the Chafetz Chaim in Anita's class on Tuesday, Rabbi Yisrael Meir Kagan. He was famous, again, he had a room, a bed, a table, and under his bed was famously, anyone know what was under the Chafetz Chaim's bed? Suitcases. And people would say, why is your suitcase? He said, I'm ready for Mashiach. I'm getting ready for Mashiach. As soon as Mashiach comes, we're off. He was living a messianic lifestyle. Rabbi Echonon Bosman, one of his students, same thing. He was the number one in the generation at that time. So one of his childhood friends, a famous lawyer, came to see the great number one in the Jewish world, his old friend, the genius, Rabbi Wasserman, came to his house in Poland. And again, it was a hovel. Sorry to say, it was just a hut. And he couldn't get his head around it. And at a certain point, he turned to Rabbi Hanan and said, I just don't get it. Don't get it. You could have been whatever you wanted to be, you know? You're way smarter than me. I'm a leading lawyer, and I'm very successful, and I have a beautiful home. Why aren't you successful? What have you done? What are you, crazy? So Rabbi Hanan didn't know how to answer him. He was just... Anyway, at the end of the meeting, the rabbi is walking him back to the train station, seeing him off. And the rabbi, with his genius, sees an opportunity. You see, there was a beautiful train going in a direction, and he said to his friend, the lawyer, hey, why don't you go and get on the train? And the lawyer said, well, it's going in the wrong direction. He goes, yeah, but it's beautiful. It's a much nicer train, and it's a much more beautiful carriage than the one going on your way. And the friend was laughing and said, I thought you were clever. Why would I go on that one, however beautiful it is, if it's the wrong direction? And he goes, exactly. In other words, for Rabbi Hanan, for a mystic, do you know what makes them happy? Do you know what is wealth? Kind of, to be honest, this, sharing, love, family, friendship, doing good deeds, nourishing spirituality. It's all they need. We don't need material possessions to make us happy. We don't. In fact, I'll let you into a secret. It says in Pirkei Avot, "Marbeh nechasim, marbeh da'agot." The more possessions you have, the more worries you have. You start being attached to physical possessions, all of a sudden, more anxiety about this problem, anxiety about the other problem. I can tell you now, from having now JTLV now being on the rooftop and downstairs, all of a sudden, we've got a problem with that drain, and this drain, and that problem, and this problem. And all of a sudden, you have more, the more keys you have, the more headaches. So therefore, what do we see? We see that happiness is not money. Happiness is not pleasure. I'll tell you what happiness is and why it's connected to the sukkah. First of all, the whole point of the sukkah is temporary, my friends. Nachon, it's temporary. We go out of our permanent dwelling abodes and come into a space which is we made it in 2 days after Yom Kippur. 48 hours, bang. All of a sudden, it's this spiritual cocoon, which, by the way, it says in the Zohar, this is what saves us from hell. It says, in the next world, it's like being in a sukkah, when you're in the spiritual radiance. Why? Dafka, because it's temporary. When you have something permanent, and then you misconstrue it and say, wow, I've arrived. I've made it. Never say that, ever. Because then you're attaching yourself to the physical, and then your soul is crying because but that's not what's real. What's real is the infinite, not the finite. And the sukkah epitomizes that temporary nature of this world. But let's go deeper. Have you ever seen how little children, little babies, don't you wish you could sleep like a baby? How many of you, when you have real problems, one of the first things that goes is sleep? Anyone experience that? Like, you can't either fall asleep, or even if you do fall asleep, you're getting woken up, whether it be by nightmares or it's just, you're not, I remember at times when I had a trauma a few years back. Oh, and do you know what? Sleep was even worse than being awake. Because when you're awake, there was a level to the trauma. When you sleep, you can do crazy things in your sleep. All of a sudden, you're flying on a broomstick and crazy stuff's happening in the sleep. And it's even more scary. So when you're nervous, when you're anxious, you can't sleep well. Do you know why this time should be Zman Simchatenu? Because guess what? This is the time, maybe you haven't realized it, that Hashem is trying to give you a hug. Like you're a newborn baby. And Hashem says, let me look after you for a bit. You've got nothing to worry about. Nothing to stress about. You can sleep like a baby now. I've got this, Hashem's saying. I'm on this. You put your trust in me, I'll put my trust in you. You put your trust in me, I'll whatever you need. A little baby knows that it will get fed when it wants. It will get clothes on. We don't worry. You're not as a little baby. It's like, oh my gosh, I need to go and buy some new clothes from the shop. You get what you need. Guess what? Hashem gives you what you need. I'll be honest with you. Even in this space, I can testify to that. I think 1 week ago, I stood there to the builder and I said, how much will this cost? And he said, $5,000. I said, that's a problem. That's a problem. I said, how much is it for half of it? He goes, you can do the math. I said, okay, let's do half of it. And I couldn't sleep that night because I knew that we could fill this up on first night Sukkot with 140 of you. And I knew that by making half, 70 of you would be calling me saying, Rabbi, I want to come in the Sukkah. I've got no Sukkah to come to. I've got no Sukkah to come to. And I just couldn't go through that trauma of saying no to 70 of you and then having to deal with Hashem in 120 years. But like, why did you turn 70 people away? So a few hours later, I just said to the builder, okay, just make all of it. He said, are you sure you can pay? I said, no, but just do all of it. And what's really cool, I think I said this last week on the talk, someone messaged me afterwards and said, I'll give you £800, which is better than dollars, right? And then someone else said, I'll give you £1,000. And all of a sudden, we're getting closer. We're still 1,800 needed. So anyone who wants to help with 1,800, which is high, which would be lovely. But we're getting there. And I've got total trust in Hashem that when it comes to paying, somehow the money will be there. That's the magic of Sukkot, everybody. That's why it's Mansim Chatenu. It says, Vapodeach Bashem, says King David. You put your trust in Hashem, Chesed Yisavavenu. Hashem will encircle you with love and kindness. Hashem's got it, but only when you give it to Hashem. So that's another reason why it's Mansim Chatenu. Let's go even deeper. And my friends, if I want to help you be happier, okay? And I want you to take this as one of my Sukkot presents from me to you, from the great tzaddik called the Maggid of Mezerich. The Maggid of Mezerich was one of the disciples of the Baal Shem Tov. And this is how he teaches you to be happy. You ready for this? This is a good one. It's from a verse from Malachim Bet, about King David. And there was a story of Elisha, actually. And Elisha was a prophet, and he needed to get prophecy. And when you are a prophet and get prophecy, a prerequisite is you need to be happy, which is interesting. Because some of the prophecies are pretty scary stuff, but yet they were happy at the same time. Jeremiah, Lamentations, he was happy. Go figure. Anyway, so Elisha said, how can I be happy? I need to have some music. You said music, didn't you? There you go. Elisha agrees with you. We're in agreement tonight. Music makes you happy, says Elisha. Listen to what the verse says. It says, when the musician became the music, the hands of Hashem went on him. When the musician becomes the music. My dear friends, you want to know how to be happy? What are you meant to do in life? When you're doing what you're meant to do and then you become it, when you lose yourself in the moment of your mission, the hand of Hashem rests on you. And there's this innate happiness that just fills you and nourishes you. For example, if any of you are meant to be teachers to young children, and that's what Hashem has for you, you know when you know you're doing it, because when you're doing it, you're just feeling joy and you become at one with the teaching. When the artist becomes the art, you know, I'll be honest, one of my problems being a rabbi and teaching to you is when I start classing, I lose all sense of time. I could easily speak for 5 hours. Don't worry, I won't, because I've worked out when I shouldn't. But honestly, when I'm really in it and my eyes are closed and I'm like channeling, I'm up with the fairies. Time. I have no idea what the time is. If you can find things to do in life, that's a good thing, not illegal, right? It should be legal. It should be ethical. It should be connected to your mission. It should be connected to your what you're good at. Okay, you ready for this? What are you good at? What do you love? And when you do it, time flies. And it's kind of a spiritually good thing. That could be your mission. When you become one with it, that will fill your soul with joy and happiness. And you'll feel, wow, I'm meant to be on this planet. That's simcha. That's simcha, my friends. And that's Sukkot, because Sukkot is the time when we just stop, and we're meant to be united, as you said, with family. You're meant to be with people. You shouldn't be by alone in a sukkah. You should need to be with each other, and you should help clarify who you are. But to finish off with, and I'll take questions soon, I want to finally finish on Rabbi Nachman. Rabbi Nachman, the great Rabbi Nachman, has some theories about happiness. You see over here, it's Rabbi Nachman's balcony up there. So Rabbi Nachman's brought me to his neck of the woods in Tel Aviv, would you believe? This is what he shares about happiness, and maybe we'll finish off with a bit of meditation, and then we'll have the Simchat Bet HaShoeva. It says there was a Simchat Bet HaShoeva at the times of the temple, that was a higher level of happiness than anyone had ever experienced. Why? Because they would lose themselves in the music. Back to the music. They would become one with the music. Why is it in the temple there was always music, always music? You should know music transcends the soul. It's the language of the soul. Words are quite clumsy. Words are limited. But when we go deeper than the words, if 20 of you were speaking at the same time, we couldn't hear anybody. But if 20 of us are singing at the same time, we can hear everybody. Because singing is the language of the soul. That's when we came out of the Kriyat Yamsuf, Moshe Rabbeinu and Miriam, we have to sing. It was an experience of such transcendence. It had to be expressed through music. So tonight we're going to try and express our love for Hashem, our love for each other through music, I hope, and hopefully we can lose ourselves in the music. But on the contrary, like tonight, this morning we had a beautiful musical Hallel, and I was flying. I thought, with my lulav and esrog, I was, it's like being on a magic carpet. Okay, here we go. Rabbi Nachman's. Here's the problem. Problem is, some of you are maybe thinking, that sounds very good, Rabbi. Problem is, I suffer with depression, or I suffer with anxiety, or I'm suffering, and I'm unhappy, and I'm sad, and even if I did my mission, I don't believe I'll be happy. Like, I struggle. People are struggling. And by the way, it's not a coincidence. Mental health is harder than ever. I don't know how many. My guess is at least one out of every two of you struggle sometimes. And probably the majority. Because we're in a generation where the Kabbalists say this is one of the hardest hurdles now. Rabbis, doctors, this is like, it's like an epidemic. That's why if your mission is to be a therapist or life coach, it's a good time to be that because they're needed. Here's Rabbi Nachman's view, and it's crazy and it's fascinating and it sounds simple, but it is simple. And I can say from personal experience, it's helped. This is his perspective. He writes in, I don't know if you've learned this, Gary, in Torah Ayin, I think, of the second Torah. You can't hold two thoughts at the same time. And therefore, next time any of you feel depressed or sad or anxious, change the thought. Start changing the thought and you won't feel sad. Because you'll have distracted yourself and you'll have a different thought in. Rabbi Nachman says your thought, your mind, is like a horse, and it's up to you where you navigate your horse. Don't let the horse guide you. Sometimes when people are feeling very low, they think, oh, that means I'm down. That means I'm depressed. That means I'm stuck. That's just watching Nightmare on Elm Street. Change the movie. Change the movie. Step number one is, and I can say from personal experience, sometimes when we've gone through some tough times, the Lubavitcher Rebbe would often to say, I'll give you an example. There was a friend of mine who was going through a real crisis, and he was going through like a court case, and it was a real trauma. And he went to the Rebbe. You know what the Lubavitcher Rebbe said? Stop thinking about it. If you think about it, you're giving it strength. You're giving it vitality. You're giving it energy. You're giving almost evil power. If there's people in life that are harming you, that are trying to upset you, that trying to almost, torture you, don't let them. Don't think of them. And the way to do it is the following. Just like If you go certain past the shop, let's say everyone's got their different levels of kashrut, right? But let's say for your level, that's the shop that you don't buy from, right? Zelo kasher, and for you, look at thoughts as foods and start differentiating between kosher thoughts and non-kosher thoughts. If there's a thought which is going to give you pain and sadness, don't eat it. Or to put another way, the Balatanya says, watch this. Your first thought which comes in, that's the challenge. That's not you. It's all about the second thought. Very deep idea. Okay, so let's say we finished the class, because hopefully you're with me right now, so you're not even thinking about anything, if only, right? But let's say you're with me and we finish, and then let's say you had a bad day and you go straight back to that moment. Try straight away, bring yourself out of it. You think of anything else other than that. I play games sometimes. I don't know why I'm sharing this with you. Why not? I love my football. So sometimes just to get away from my Yetzer Hara's thought, I'll think, oh, who is my team playing next week? If I was the manager, who would I pick? I want to create space in my mind, or I think, oh, what's that Torah? I'll start thinking of different divrei Torah I've heard and just fill my mind with positivity and light and goodness. We have control over our thoughts, my friends. Don't think we're victims of our thoughts. You have control of the thoughts if you want to. And I'll tell you why I know that. Because I know that. Till I was 18, my probably passion and love was soccer, was football. I was offered trials for a football team called Arsenal Football Club in England. And I loved football. And, I loved, there's a film called Bend It Like Beckham, right? I could bend it like Beckham and do like a banana kick around the wall in the top corner, win the cup final. And that was, I thought, doesn't get better. But then I thought, you know what? I'll play professionally. It means I can't keep Shabbat or Premiership football. Let's decide. I went to Israel and kind of did my own journey, my own searching. And I'll be honest, I searched for about 3 seconds. And after 3 seconds being in what I felt was paradise in Israel, in a place called Yavne, I'm like, however good football is, zeklum in contrast to eternal spirituality. I just felt Hashem. I felt the power and beauty of Torah. And goodbye, football. Hello, Hashem. Said after a year, Hashem is like, now deal with this, Avi. You think it's so easy? Basically, in spirituality, sometimes you get a boost where things are easy. You're climbing, and then Hashem drops you and says, now do it yourself. So I always knew I'd get what's called the flip, right? It was easy for a year. It was just easy. I was just like floating. It was, when it's easy, it's not real. Sorry to say. It's real when you've had to climb and exerted yourself. And Hashem brought me down, and I had something that changed my life forever. I got diagnosed with an illness called ME. My friends, I couldn't move my body for a year of my life. I was in bed like this for a year. I couldn't get out of bed. And many people with ME, especially when we had it, which was 33 years ago, people ended up in wheelchairs. People ended up sometimes killing themselves. And that could have easily been my trajectory until there was a book, a doctor called Sarno. I don't know if anybody's heard of him. Sarno. I recommend you look him up because he says from a psychological perspective exactly what the Kabbalists were saying, all the same. He was saying what I just told you Rabbi Nachman says. We're in control of our thoughts. Don't let the thoughts be in control of you. So my brain was telling my body, I can't move. I'm stuck. Blah, blah, blah. He was saying, just change what you're telling yourself. We call it now NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. 32 years ago, he didn't have that phrase. I kind of got into NLP many, many years back. And guess what? I used to go to the park, even though I was feeling dreadful. People would have to carry me sometimes and move me. And I would do some meditation and I would do my NLP. And I would ask Hashem for help. And all of a sudden, slowly, I would start to feel better, and start to gain control, and start to realize I'm no longer a victim to my mind. I'm going to take control of my mind. And this concept of Rabbi Nachman, that we can control our thoughts, thank God, healed me. And therefore I can teach you this, that simcha is something that if you feel there are thoughts which are getting in the way, change your thoughts and don't tell me that you can't. Because if it did it for me, who was really suffering to the extent I couldn't move my arms, and I managed to, we can. We have the power. And I'll give you two stories to conclude. Story number one, the Rav Shach stories. We'll start with this. One of the greatest traumas one can possibly imagine was the Holocaust and losing your loved ones at the Holocaust. And there was a guy just after the Second World War that came out of the Holocaust totally traumatized, totally depressed, gutted. He'd lost his whole family, devastated, and they didn't know what to do with him. But there was this great Kabbalist in Bnei Brak called Rabbi Hill, who was just like a budding great. And they said to him, maybe go to this rabbi, maybe he'll help you. Anyway, so the Holocaust survivor is now, the end of 1949 or something, he's meeting Rav Shach and they're sitting together. And Rav Shach says, tell me what you're feeling. And the guy just spills it all, just says how terrible his life is and how he's lost everyone and how could he ever smile again with all the pain he's going through. Good point, no? You know what Rav Shach said to him? Rav Shach said, I'm with you. And he cried with you. Wow, what you've gone through. He goes, tell me, you come from a Bobov dynasty, don't you? He says, yeah, I come from Bobov dynasty. He said, do you know the famous Bobov song? Imagine this Holocaust survivor who's crying is now told by the rabbi about a song. And he says, yeah. Famous Bobov song which goes, la 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 la. Rav Shach said to him, like this genius, what he used was, let's sing a song together. Let's sing the song together. And they started singing it. La 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 la. And then Rav Shach says, you've lost your family. You lost your wife. You lost your brother. You lost your father. You lost your mother. You haven't lost the song. You've got a song. You might as well sing the song. Let's sing it again. La 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 la. And at a certain point, Rav Shach turned around to the survivor and said, you've lost it all, but you haven't lost the song. And it doesn't mean we can't dance. Let's dance. And they started dancing. Rav Shach starts dancing with the survivor. And literally music changed his perspective and changed the thought process. And he lived happily ever after from this beautiful idea of Rav Shach that however bad our life is, we can, and I heard more of a modern day story to it. There's one of my friends, a guy called Rabbi Jonathan Rietti, and he teaches this Rabbi Nachman idea of you can control your thoughts. And one of the stories he illustrates, he was at a hospital, and the doctor said, Rabbi Rietti, you've got to hear this story. There was a woman who tragically, awfully, horrendously had been gang raped. You would have thought totally traumatized. The consultant walks into her and says, here's the type of therapy we need. This is what we can do. The woman said to her, I'm fine. It's okay. And they said, no, you're probably in shock. You're in denial. But here's the numbers. We have to go through this process. The woman was like, my body was there, but my mind wasn't there. I didn't let my mind go there. She didn't let her mind go there, and she wasn't affected with trauma. And months afterwards, she was still fine because she got to a place where she had such control of her mind, she disattached from the trauma. Or another one, there's a great tzaddik called the Modular Rebbe, who famously had to go for a very severe operation, and they were talking about which anesthetic to give him, and it was kind of before anesthetics, and he was going to be through terrible pain. And the Rebbe said, don't worry, I'm going to compose a song. So they operated on the Modular Rebbe, and he composed a song of 36 stanzas during this very long operation, and he was fine because his mind and his space was almost disattached from the body. Because we have that power. So just to finish off with, and then I said I'll take a question. One last story, one of my favorite stories. Just to go back to where we started, because a lot of people think, I'll be happy if I have the money I need. If only I Come on, how many of you are still, you're going to go home and like, yeah, the rabbi, very idealistic. The bottom line, I need to make that breakthrough with my finances. And, happiness isn't going to pay my bills, is what some people say to me. Happiness isn't, but Hashem will. Happiness isn't Hashem will pay your bills. And that's the lesson of Sukkah. I can assure you, you let Hashem pay your bills will be paid. But there's another way for Hashem to pay your bills, and it's the following. A lot of people think that your competitors, what you've got to do is you've really got to be brutal to your competitors for you to succeed. Let me share with you the Sukkot way of how you deal with competitors. You ready? So it was a famous story that happened. And there was a guy in New Jersey. And I don't know if some of you make money on Amazon by selling things on Amazon or eBay, right? So there's a guy who's selling some computers on Amazon, selling his computers. And one day he got to this computer when he woke up in the morning and he couldn't believe it. True story. His whole stock was sold. He was like, thank you, Hashem. Until he looked and realized, he put the wrong price. Instead of saying $4,000 for the computer, he'd lost at a zero. It was $400. And people started chapping that he was selling something for 10% of what it cost. And everyone bought it. And now he was devastated. So this young guy in New Jersey is now, what am I going to do? A few hours later, he gets a call. He gets a call from a nice guy from a synagogue on the other side of town and says, I'm your competitor. So I'm always looking at you just to see how much you're charging. And I think you made a big mistake the other day. You put a zero off. So don't worry. I'm the one who bought everything. I wanted to be the one to buy everything, and now I give it all back to you. Amazon Angel, he was called. The Amazon Angel. That's how to deal with competitors. Love them. Care for them. I saw just now, even a few months ago, again, something happened in America. There was a problem with the fish shop, and the competitor let the competitor come into his shop and sell them from that shop. That's the idea of a sukkah. The idea of a sukkah is we all fit. Your competitors cannot touch your livelihood, not a penny of it. Whatever you need to earn, Rosh Hashanah is decided, that's it. Your competitors can't change that. And the more you understand that, and the more you believe that, and the more you have bitachon in that, the more you'll feel nourished, the more you feel happy, the more you'll feel complete. And I want to give you a blessing under this holy sukkah, that Hashem should help you achieve simcha. It says, Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha. We should all halavai merit every day of our lives to feel simcha. And we can, if we're doing what we're meant to do, and we're doing it with love, and we're doing it with kindness, and we're with Hashem, we can be happy. However dark situation is. You know what happens in Tel Aviv last week? A lot of people have said, Rabbi, isn't it terrible what's happening here? You know, what happens on Yom Kippur? People are getting really depressed about it. And I'm like, is your life so almost empty that you can fill it with what's going on? I get it. If you're in Rosh Yodiyah, Yisrael Ze'ira, I get it. It could be quite a tough time right now. But if you're just someone who saw the news, chill the heck out. Why are you letting externalities affect your inner mood? We have no right to put ourselves in depression just because stuff's happening in the world, which is bad. Hashem wants us to be joyous, to be happy, to be positive. Because when we are in that mode, then we can make a difference in the world. When we're low, when we're feeling, isn't it terrible? We can't be a bundle of light. We can't be that energy of goodness. And therefore, it's really important to try and not let externalities affect you, for you to take control of your inner world. And B'ezrat Hashem, Hashem should shower all of us with only simcha. He should shower all of you with figuring out what your mission is in this world. He should shower all of you with wealth, for sure, and then show you that it's not your wealth that brings happiness, but it's what you do with that wealth that brings happiness. And please God, we'll do the right thing. We'll do the good thing. And the shefa of bracha, which is interesting, all the rain, in London, normally it always rains in Sukkot. I can't believe it actually rained in Tel Aviv when I'm here. I can't believe I brought the rain with me. So I do apologize. It's my fault. But the good news is on Shabbat, when we're going to say Mashav Arach Umar Geshem, first of all, rain is good. It's a blessing. But it's also, the mystics say, it's referring to the Gashmiut. So really, please God, by starting to say Mashav Arach Umar Geshem, finish off with this Mashav Harach. We should have an elevation of Ruchnius. Please God, your spirit, your soul should be enhanced. And the Gashmiut, Hashem should bring the materialism that you need for your mission down to you. You should have exactly what you need. So, Madim B'Simcha, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. And what we're going to do is in a few minutes, we're going to start the party soon when the musicians come. So relax, enjoy the sukkah, have some nice drinks. I'm happy to take questions, and probably I will speak about 10 o'clock and say a few words of Torah as well, but enjoy the party. Friday night, I hope you will come back. We have a Simchat Torah downstairs. There's not many synagogues which will literally have an open bar in the synagogue. We'll literally have our bar and the alcohol flowing. So you're invited to our open bar and Simchat Torah celebrations. And we're going to be offering dinner as well. But you've got to get tickets for that. If you want to get dinner at the end of Simchat Torah and have a Friday night meal with us around 9 o'clock, there's a few tickets left. Please don't wait till like an hour before and then get upset with me when it's sold out. I'm giving you warning. Okay? You have 24 hours to get your tickets. And then and then Shabbat lunch as well. We're going to also have a kafot in the morning and then also a lunch as well. So, Mo'adim b'simcha, everybody. Thank you for coming. Chag Sameach.